Actually moving to Bali is one thing, but finding the right long-term accommodation for you in Bali is a whole nother deal. So let's get into that right now. Now, if you haven't seen me before, I'm Steve. I lived in Bali for nearly 3 years. I was an English teacher. I've since moved back to the UK, as you can see from the cold weather clothes, but I want to share a lot of the things I learned about Bali because I got asked so many questions. So I thought I'd put this out there to help people like you and make that transition that much easier, telling you the things I wish I'd known before I got there. So in terms of long-term rental options in Bali, you've got, let's say, two main choices really. I would say you can go down the luxury route of villas, which you're probably well aware of, but there's caveats obviously, or you can go for the budget option, which is what I did, and go live a little bit more like a local, but somewhere in between. So you've got your villas, and you might think that they're going to be super cheap. Unfortunately, they're not. The problem with villas in Bali is that if you're looking at renting them on a short-term basis, for instance, then you're competing with the tourist market where they can charge extortionate rates, if I'm honest. And people are happy to pay it because it's a holiday rate. So for those villa owners, to make it worth their while, they're only really interested in a year-long contract for a villa rental. Anything less, they'd rather just take the tourist rate and have it empty 1 month, full the next, etc., etc. So you've got to have that in mind, that you're always competing against the tourist market. And another thing to note about villas is when I looked at the ads, and this was before I realized they were way out of my price league, I should add, they're often unfurnished. So you're going to have to pay that expense of furnishing them, and they want a year cash up front. So you've got to pay for the year in cash up front. Now, even if they're quite cheap by our local standards of where the countries we already live in, they're still not very cheap when you have to pay all of that up front. And most of the time it's going to be cash in hand. So you have to have a system for paying that cash. And also you need to be sure that the person you're dealing with is trustworthy. So in terms of finding a villa, I would say ignore the websites you find. Most of the Bali long-term villa rental websites are really expensive. I would have a look at the Bali Advertiser website, classified ads, dealing with individuals, keeps the price down, and they're looking for more reasonable rates. And you can see each Bali Advertiser publication, I think it's fortnightly, on the website in PDF. So you don't need to be there to get the paper copy. You can now read it online. And have a look, classified ads by location. The other thing I would suggest then is actually looking at notice boards in cafes and bars. Basically, the kind of place you like to eat that match your budget will then often have accommodation that matches your budget. And you will see private rentals there. Most of them will be very trustworthy, and you can get a feel for how they are. You can compare lots of prices in that. But again, you can only do that when you're there. As I said, anything that's online is generally going to be a lot more expensive because they're targeting the market for someone who hasn't arrived and doesn't really know the lay of the land. So you can be a much more savvy buyer and get a better deal if you are there in person. Now, the other option is to go more of that sort of budget route through what's called a Rumah Kos, or boarding house. These can range from anything from just basically a floor with a mattress, which I first had when I moved to Bali, and I couldn't believe it. Somebody in work recommended it to me and it was terrible. The toilet was just a hole in the ground and no kitchen, nothing, no aircon. It was awful, awful, awful. But that was, local type stuff. And it was only about $30 a month, I think. However, costs can go all the way up to more of a premium one. You can get some with swimming pools, but it's rare. Whereas I then moved into one with my now wife in South Denpasar, which was close to the school I was working at, and also a quick shot to Kuta, and that was $150 a month all in. And it was only paid monthly. That was the beauty of the cost, is paying on a monthly rolling rate. The cost we had aircon, it had refrigerator, it had a little basic stove, hot water shower, bed. The only thing it didn't really have was a sofa. But the thing I liked about it was just, that monthly basis. It worked, it was discreet. It was not the dream Bali kind of setup that you would imagine, for sure, but it worked for me living there on a modest wage of an English teacher, as I was. And if you're going to go down that route, then you can find costs all over the place. So I would say look in a place you want to live, and you will see Rumah Kos or Kosan, I think it is, advertised. Look for one that says Lengkap or complete, depends how they say it, because lengkap means complete, so fully furnished with all the trimmings, TV, aircon, etc. And you should be able to get a very good deal. They shouldn't ask for more than a month. If they do, there's probably one to stay away because they might be trying to do the tourist price thing. Just give those a wide berth. And then the last point really comes back to that location, because there's a lot of areas in Bali that I wouldn't live in, to be honest. I mean, I said I lived in South Denpasar. Denpasar is not somewhere you want to live, really, at all. It's just not pleasant. But, you know, on the flip side, Nusa Dua, you're probably not going to have the option to live there unless you've got serious cash. You know, these super touristy areas are premium prices as well. Canggu has completely transformed since I was there. My friend called it a hipster's paradise now. When I was there, it was just a Balinese village that was becoming popular with surfers and a few cafes, and no doubt it's completely different ball game now, but that's kind of popular with the digital native crowd. Personally, I would not live in Ubud. It's too hot and just a bit boring, really. Some people love it if you're into that thing. For me, no. Sanur attracts more of an older crowd. And then you've got, you know, Kuta obviously is tourist central, but then you've got those places around Kuta, let's say, places you might not hear about, like Karabokan, Patitangat, where you can get good deals that are in between Canggu and your Kutas and so on. So there's lots of places to look for. Now, go and check out my other videos in this series for more insights, and I'll see you in another video soon. Best of luck.